All right, today we're going to be diving into a layer one project that I think many of you have. One, you've talked to us about it, you've put it in the comments. We try to do as best we can to bring those out to you, and that's a project called Klaytn. Joining me today is going to be one of their tech leads, and I think also kind of a potential for us to get under the hood and learn a lot more about it. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to TechPath. All right, joining me today is our guest, Neil Yu, who is Head of Technology and Advocacy for the Klaytn Foundation. Great to have you on the show, Neil.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
Excellent. All right, so let's just jump into it. I want to learn a little bit more about Klaytn, and in general, the blockchain, what you're trying to do with the project. What are some of the key components that really kind of make you guys stand out?
So, this is certainly a good one, and most of the time we answer these kind of questions when people talk about Klaytn. And so basically, Klaytn is a public service centric blockchain. This is a really short answer, but really going into the before going into the history a bit about the background that we have at Klaytn, we are having these kind of hybrid architectures with a service centric blockchain as a focus, meaning that back in the TAT, we are having a service chain as a side chain, and at the same time we have like a main chain, just like any other layer one blockchain in the industry. And obviously, going back to a bit background of Klaytn, so Klaytn actually initiated back to 3 years ago. That was initiated and affiliated with Kakao, and it was a obviously Kakao is the largest internet service company in South Korea and also one of the
Mhm.
largest in Asia and in the world as well. And so, in regards of the Klaytn blockchain, this is actually certainly a global initiative for Kakao going forward with it. So back in 3 years ago, there was not a lot of Web3.js or whatsoever,
Right.
these kind of tools that we can use to build stuff. So how Ground X, which is a sister company of Klaytn Foundations, actually start building that. So Ground X is a subsidiary company of Kakao. It was being built of Ground X, and the base layer of it, just like any other layer one as a first step, right now is we were the Git fork from Ethereum. And then
Mhm.
down the line, we make a lot of changes. I mean, technical changes. For example, we set it with the 1 second block time. That's why we can achieve immediate finality. And also, we're running with a consensus algorithm of IBFT, the Istanbul BFT, so that we have way more different. So we have our own introductions of the transaction type or account type and all these kind of things. So combining together, it has been making Klaytn to be a really different blockchain. So we even have the multi-signatures functions on the protocol layers. So this is how what has been making Klaytn to be really special and standing out right there in the field in terms of the layer one blockchain in the blockchain industry.
Okay, so I think for a lot of our audience and understanding really how many layer ones are operating, in many cases, speed is always an issue, consensus, immediate transaction validation, those kind of things are very key in being able to grow a chain into some of the, whether it's DeFi, GameFi, Metaverse, eventually where we're going to see some large transaction aspects really kind of come into those sectors. Will Klaytn be able to handle those kinds of volumes? Because this is something that we've talked about with a lot of projects, and there's several projects out there that are struggling with congestion. How does Klaytn address some of those issues out there right now?
So this is certainly a very good one. So we get into more detail, which is good. So when I first said Klaytn is a public service centric blockchain, meaning that this service centric, this kind of service centric meaning is actually coming from a hybrid architectures that we have. So meaning that just like any other layer ones right there out there in the market, they have the layer one main chain. So depending on whether you would like to run with different consensus algorithm, that's fine. So what
Right.
we are doing with the IBFT, with all this kind of stuff that we have, like the parallel processing of different node, and we even have like very special network architectures. So not most of the time layer one, you only have validated nodes on the network, that's it. And so what we have right up back to the Klaytn blockchain architectures, like we have something we call the endpoint node, which will be having this kind of Web3 interface, talking straight to different applications outside the blockchain. And then we have something called proxy, the proxy node. And then at the end of the day, we got consensus node, which is something what we have been talking about, just like core node or validator node on individual layer one. So what is even better is like we talk about the hybrid architectures, meaning that we do have like a sidechain inside the Klaytn ecosystem, meaning that these kind of different metaverse use cases or creator economies use cases, they can even run their own like sovereignty network or consortium network like that on the side. And with that, we can have guaranteed TPS transaction per second to be at least 10K from the side. In main chain, we have 4,000 right there as of what we have today, but we haven't actually kickstarted with what we're going to do in this year, in the coming years, that based on the Klaytn 2.0 initiatives that we're going to have. And that's the reason why the whole team at Klaytn Foundations, we are taking Singapore as our headquarters office right there in Singapore to drive these kind of Klaytn Foundations, using Klaytn Foundations to drive the growth of the Klaytn ecosystem. And that's the whole thing, that why we are here, to presenting the whole ideas to the world, the new phase of Klaytn.
Yeah, I like that, and I think as we see more and more, demand on blockchain in general, especially as we see adoption really start to curve up, there are going to be a lot of scenarios where, in many cases, some projects are really going to be exposed. So I think the ability to be able to scale and handle real case uses is going to be very critical. Now, you guys are working on Klaytn 2.0. Explain to me what the difference is between Klaytn and Klaytn 2.0.
So basically for 1.0, we have been successfully build I would say, local success in the areas like Korea or in Asia. But now for what we have right now is we would like to be a bit more globalized. When I say a bit, meaning it's really polite to say that a bit, but we're really full on with so many areas. And the goal of Klaytn 2.0 is really simple. Is even though we got 4K TPS right there on main chain and 10K whatsoever right there on the service chain, and you can have so many numerous like service chain like the link or have this kind of interoperability layers, being built with the main chain. That's totally fine. But what we would like to build is to build a more scalable and interoperable ecosystem for Klaytn with the Klaytn 2.0, and try to drive the communities. When I said the communities, meaning all the stakeholders that we have, maybe the holders of K, but what we care is that organic growth, meaning that we would like to have more use case developers, all these kind of open source developers that will be, jumping on board with us to build a better product like that in the blockchain world, and so that we can have more ecosystem adoptions out there. And currently we have, as of today, we have 200, I think more than 200 adoptions. When I say adoptions, they're actually partners, but there are numerous, use cases, right? They're building, for example, NFT or fungible tokens, wrap token project like that with Klaytn. So basically, we have many things to cover, but mostly with the Klaytn 2.0, the takeaway message right here is we would like to be scalable and interoperable, and then we believe we should focus on building this kind of metaverse blockchain, meaning that we're not just only building one metaverse, but we would like to be a go-to option for metaverse, these kind of use cases, gaming use cases, and creator economy use cases as well at the same time. But
Yeah, I
going
was
deep
look.
into it, go on, sorry.
No, I was looking at just the engagements and the partnerships that you have in place here. So you've got the DeFi sector, governance councils, the Oracle and the Bridge, obviously with Chainlink and SixBridge. You've got the tools with, some of the tools elements in here. Gaming, of course. On the gaming side, and especially if I look at that, and I just want to kind of zoom in on some of these because there's quite a bit that you've got rolling into gaming. Do you see that as a large expansion opportunity for Klaytn? It appears that you're focusing in on this. How is that roadmap looking in terms of onboarding either new game and or new metaverse partners and/or developers?
Certainly, this is a very good question. So basically, that will be going into if we are talking about Klaytn 2.0, would like to be more scalable and
Hmm.
interoperable, especially for the metaverse use cases or gaming use cases. Obviously, we need to think about how we're going to achieve that. And obviously, you will be lovely to learn how we actually achieve that, right? So basically, the first of all, the options that we would like to go with how we could do that is we would like to build some kind of game developer infrastructure package, meaning that inside that on the ecosystem. So when we talk about ecosystem, we are not trying to have one successful use case right there building on the ecosystem. We would like to have as many use cases or dApps being built on our ecosystem as possible. So meaning that we will be having these developers package for the game developers. When they come in, they will have open source wallets. They will have Oracle plugins, meaning that there could be some on-chain, off-chain data
Right.
interactions. Because you know that we're going to build metaverse, right? So data or maybe NFT metadata, right, that will not be static. Sorry to say that, but may not be static anymore because for what we understand, NFT is mostly based on static set of metadata. That's how you value an NFT. But if you're trying to have like a metaverse enabled NFT and going into these kind of dynamic environments, the metadata will be dynamic as well. And that's the whole idea is that we have at Klaytn when we try to support these. We also have our token standard. We're going to work out some standard token standard for the NFT or metaverse enabled NFT to be truly like a dynamic NFT only for that areas for focus on the metaverse right here. So
Yeah.
basically, inside the package, there's so many technical components that they're all open source. People can actually get used to it, and mostly we focus on the data architectures a bit more. We talk about distributed storage, gateway that we would like to build one at Klaytn, which will be open source, and all these kind of use case developers they can actually get used it. They can actually get adapted into it. And when we're trying to build some kind of new metaverse use cases or gaming use cases at Klaytn, but there are few more. But I'm not gonna stay with. I think I can explain a bit more while we are here. I think that will be quite clear to say. One more thing is we understand if we would like to just if we are happy with be one of the major layer ones right there in Asia or in global top 30,
Hmm.
that's fine. Everybody would like to do that. But what is different with Klaytn 2.0 is finally, this is the first time at Klaytn we're talking about interoperability, meaning that we're trying to interoperable with other blockchain ecosystem. For example,
Right.
we were the gift fork from Ethereum 3 years ago, and we made a lot of changes right there in Klaytn 1.0. And these changes have been making Klaytn to be really special, really standalone. In the past 3 or 2 years, we have been running fine. We have so many use cases, adoptions, solid adoptions right there when you see in the ecosystem map. But what is different this time is we're looking to interoperable with other blockchain ecosystem,
Right.
including obviously Ethereum and maybe others. But when I say in this way is that we're trying to support Ethereum equivalents, meaning that even low level to the JSON OPC level, we try to include to cooperate with the ETH namespace so that
Yeah.
when these kind of tools, for example, oracles or even like Ethereum clients and all these kind of tools that build or use case build around the Ethereum ecosystem, they will be able to interoperable on the Klaytn and vice versa. So, for example, if somebody trying to build a token standard at Klaytn, it will be workable in the Ethereum ecosystem because sorry to say that because they have a very very big communities obviously when things they would like to slot in a specific like London fork and all this kind of EIP or ELC that they have, it might take longer. But for us,
Yeah.
if we really focus on building metaverse, things are really moving really quickly. And at the end
Hmm.
of the day, if this token standard is working at Klaytn blockchain, it will be working in the Ethereum ecosystem as well. And this is only EVM based, which is Ethereum virtual machine. And I haven't
Right.
actually covered that. We can actually cover the WASM, which is the WebAssembly based blockchain right there. So basically, long story short, with the Klaytn 2.0, we are trying to build really interoperable layers by not just having, hey, asking one use case to build on Ethereum and then ask them to build on Klaytn, and then you work out this kind of smart contract breaching. It's not just like this, but we would like to, on the virtual machine layer or even on the two-lane or two-chain layer, we would like to actually hit that kind of interoperability so that we would like to build, I wouldn't say blockchain of blockchains, but at least a hub of blockchain so that
Yeah.
there will be more use cases to build on us. Yeah.
Yeah. So Neil, a couple of things you mentioned in there that kind of piqued my interest, and this is the dynamic case for NFTs. Because you're right, and we've had a chance to talk to a few developers over the past month or two around the NFT kind of explosion and really what could be a very unique use case for a lot of NFTs as we start to see NFTs being utilized in other industries outside metaverse gaming, the typical JPEG element of art. But what you're talking about is a dynamic change. That's a pretty major shift in the NFT space overall. When we start to see dynamic changes occur within ecosystems like metaverse or games, or maybe even within industries, if you think about finance, medical, et cetera, all the potential use cases for NFT, how would that secure and still it be qualified as a non-fungible token or asset? What would be kind of the variation once that you have some sort of ability to have a dynamic shift in the structure or the makeup of that NFT?
Yeah, thank you for this. Obviously, at Klaytn Foundation, we have been thinking, when I said use cases or to support like that, we have been thinking different ways that we can better serve the metaverse use cases that build on us. The reason why I was mentioning, I think I mentioned a bit right that the reason why I mentioned the NFT that will be integrated with the metaverse or
Hmm.
whatsoever use cases right that will be built on and the layer one blockchain that will be based on metaverse or gaming. For example, cross game avatar, right? So
Right.
you won't expect all the metadata right that will be staying at the same time or over the places, right? That not to mention we are not talking about cross game support right now. We just talk about for one avatar in one game, probably across different time durations, right? That's like 2 weeks. The
Hmm.
metadata of that avatar maybe keep changing. But what is not changing is the ownership is not changing. So
Right.
people talk about, we understand we adopt blockchain because of the immutable data layers, right? That we understood it, but the
Sure.
immutability is only focused on the transactions and the block data, which we call the chain data. But
Hmm.
for those metadata that you store on the smart contract deployed to specific network, these data is subject to change. If they are not
Okay.
changing, there will be no transfer, right? So the point that I'm trying to make right here is the storage on the smart contract will be changing for specific NFT, and NFTs basically give you a concept
Right.
about the ownership of a data object in one smart contract deployed to specific network or layer
Gotcha.
one network. So the point really right here is you the world maybe start seeing three things that I can foresee when we are in Klaytn Foundation in Singapore. We are thinking every single possibility that to better serve our metaverse communities to build on us or gaming company, triple A's companies. So we were thinking three ways that will be changing or shifting in the NFT market. Bear in mind, metaverse is only an extended utility for NFT. Before metaverse, we only have digital collectibles, and that is the NFT 1.0. I know I keep saying this 1.0, 2.0, you might not like it, but the point that I'm trying to make right here is three things. First thing, NFT will be having a new category that will be dynamic NFT. We understand there is some other project like physical NFT that an NFT can link with a physical asset. Yes, we
Right.
understood. But there will be another class, we call it dynamic NFT, which will be mostly utilized in the metaverse environment, and the metadata will be changing depending on the environments setting that they will be in a specific metaverse environment.
So
If you're
I'm
trying to
kind.
change the data in,
I want to interrupt there for a second. I'm just thinking technical standpoint here because with NFT smart contracts, there are certain protocols that are in place for that non-fungibility. What you're talking about is a dynamic layer that would, in essence, almost ride on top. Would that only be applicable to whatever project that NFT is in terms of the environment? So if it's used in an in-game asset, or it's used in a financial instrument, or whatever it might be, let's say that the DApp or the project use case scenario is only changing that dynamic layer when it's in there. When it's being utilized outside that, does the dynamics layer stay with the NFT, or does it stay within the DApp itself?
I think that will stay with when the NFT is being utilized in the metaverse environment. If people are
Okay.
not actually using that, if you're not using, say, like an in-game asset, and you try
Mm-hmm.
not to use that already, if you're not playing that, and the metadata is not going to change it. But obviously,
Right.
this will be down to the use cases of the metaverse. But
Sure.
that was just my first point that I mentioned for the NFT categories. The second category of the NFT, we will be seeing the NFT start changing will be, while we have so many virtual lands use cases, obviously, Klaytn, we got virtual lands use cases. But my point was, we have been thinking about NFT give the ownership, as I mentioned, give the ownership
Mm-hmm.
of specific data object that you store in a smart contract, fine. But this is more like a permanent, when I say this is more like a permanent ownership concept, meaning that when you're trying to
Right.
transfer it, you transfer the outright ownership of it if you're trying to do
Mm.
buy sell. But we
Yeah.
start to see more time series NFT right here, which we start
Excellent.
talking about leasing.
Yeah.
Leasing an NFT in an environment. It could be metaverse, it could be gaming. And by the way, metaverse just, some Web3 components, especially smart contract and blockchain, network and infrastructures that we have, plus the virtual experience. And the virtual experience is the key, like how you lower the barrier for more people to join the metaverse. That's one thing. But they're mostly based on spatial computing, like this kind of extended reality that we talk about right there. But
Mm-hmm.
going back to my second point, I will foresee, except the dynamic NFT, we will start seeing time series NFT in the market, and
Right.
that's just another way of operating the NFT in different world. And people would like to put their I don't know, this kind of wall mount crypto punks right there for like 10 days or a year, and they can lease for that. And
Mm-hmm.
this is something that obviously the industry can work on, but that will be, again, NFT is based on smart contract, and smart contract is based on token standard, and token standard is really different from different layer one that you might be having. But the better interoperable blockchain layers, I mean the layer one blockchain you could have, the more interoperable use cases, I mean the token use cases or token standard you could have, that will be working alongside different blockchain ecosystem. And this is what Klaytn has been doing. And the third point I think is the, in terms of the NFT. So we go too far on the NFT, but at Klaytn, we have been thinking about to solve one major problem in the industry, especially in the NFT industry. So when I mentioned, NFTs based on smart contract, and smart contract can deploy to different network, and these NFT project could be based on different smart contract as well. There's no such solutions in the market right now. We can have
Right.
this kind of cross-chain ownership or chain agnostic ownership concept for NFT. So you own something on Klaytn with this smart contract this NFT out of this smart contract, doesn't mean that you will be owning the same reg there, maybe the same project reg there in ERC. So nobody will be able to tell you that whether you own this will mean that you will be owning elsewhere at the same time. So how do you actually solve this kind of chain agnostic ownership problem? And obviously, the Klaytn dev team is actually working around the clock. We set out this kind of not just the token standard, but we are thinking how we could be truly operable, interoperable. Going back to my point is, we're looking not just on having use case built on different layer one blockchain, so that we say that we bridge the smart contract together, and then we say that this is truly interoperable. It's not like this. This is really superficial. At Klaytn, we're trying to build and coming from a low level areas, meaning that from the virtual machine layers and from the virtual machine perspective, and also for this kind of ecosystem perspective, we would like to have the toolings is actually interoperable between a different ecosystem. So my point was really quick right here to sum up for the third point is if nobody believes chain agnostic ownership is the way going forward for NFT, the only way to think about is to have the federate style of ownership, meaning
Right.
that if you own one NFT in a smart contract that deployed, for example, to Klaytn, if Klaytn as a base layer one blockchain network, if we can interoperable with other blockchains, say like Parachain or whatsoever ecosystem from Ethereum or other blockchain, we could build this kind of federated style of ownership on the base layer uh, as a layer one to support our ecosystem to grow with more metaverse or gaming use cases or even NFT marketplace if they would like to look at to build more on Klaytn.
Right. So that would be applied in Klaytn 2.0. All of these functionalities of next generation NFTs. Klaytn 2.0 is really kind of the use case. Do you have a roadmap for Klaytn 2.0 on in terms of rollout?
So going back before the roadmap was, yes, these stuff that we mentioned, when I say stuff, meaning the three questions that we were having and questioning myself,
Hmm.
at Klaytn Foundations, we have been thinking to do this, and this will be cover, or at least not cover in the developer package that will be everywhere
Okay.
at the Klaytn Foundations. They actually look to solve it. And in terms of the roadmap, for the package, mostly for the developer package that we have at Klaytn, we are looking at obviously within a year. So the second quarter of this year, you will be seeing some more open source toolings like that. For example, I know this is not directly related, but it may be indirectly related. For example, like a wallet, we think about you actually, we feel like we don't want to have anything that closed source. We would like to have an open source wallet. And also we would like to have like a gateway for distributed file storage as well, because
Yeah.
as I keep repeating as well, the dynamic NFT pattern that we suggested right here, the first in the world as a layer one to suggest this concept right here. We believe the interactive data caching, storage, or interactions with on-chain, off-chain environment will be key. And then distributed file storage is something that we can look at, but distributed file storage, they always come with some kind of caching problem that you need to solve. Obviously, it won't be as quickly as you just talk to some centralized storage like somebody hosts like an AWS S3 storage, right? That is not like this, but we can work out some kind of off-chain, this kind of concept to further have high throughput about the data interaction between the on-chain and off-chain environments to have these kind of dynamic NFT actualized, these
Yeah.
ideas to be actualized and to be utilized by different use case developers like that at Klaytn. So
So okay, so a lot a lot to cover there for sure in terms of how the rollout will occur with 2.0. Completely understand the kind of the dynamic aspect and kind of this next generation NFT side, the plug into Metaverse, potentially GameFi, what really could be the future of what we'll see more and more in terms of layer ones being much more involved in Metaverse. And I think that's going to be a key factor there. Last question for you is the involvement around CBDC application and use case scenarios. How is Klaytn working in that area?
so first of all, CBDC is not, to be honest, it's not part of the Klaytn 2.0 promises like that. We have something and actually being completed at Klaytn 1.0 already. So for the CBDC aspect of the Klaytn network or blockchain as a whole, when I mentioned Ground X is actually our sister company, firstly initiate and build the basic layer of Klaytn blockchain. So basically, Ground X has been in agreement with the Bank of Korea to join the pilot program of the Korean CBDC.
Okay.
And with this in place, the pilot of the Korea CBDC is actually Bank of Korea CBDCs will be actually based on the private versions of Klaytn.
All right, I understand that. So that's so not necessarily a 2.0 angle for where CBDC is going. This is more of the sister company that is ground eggs with what you guys are doing with Bank of
Still,
Korea. Because
the pilot is based on Klaytn, which is something that we have been using, and we will be
yeah,
still using the special features that we have from the Klaytn 1.0. But mostly on the Klaytn 2.0, you can still see a lot of support right there to the Klaytn, from the Klaytn foundations to the communities that we're trying to have in the ecosystem to grow as well. And
right,
I haven't actually covered one point from the Klaytn 2.0 is the major factors that we would like to. So, for example, we are here with a mission to support use cases to develop on the Klaytn ecosystem, but we are not here just to say we would like to be the most successful standalone layer one. This is not what we are,
right,
trying
yeah,
to achieve right here. That's why we do have some ecosystem fund, and that's about 1 billion to support all the use cases to build on Klaytn. And also we do have some funding based on that's 1 billion to try to have this open source involvement and development process, harnessing all around the world international developers open source to try to contribute to our code base or core protocol. So these fundings actually will be, I would say, grants actually covering all this kind of individual aspect. And at the end of the day, this is one of the joke that the Klaytn people always like to make right here is people said we would like to build like a playground for all the ecosystem partners to build on us, but we're trying to build this kind of playground right here for everybody. So I'm trying to using the word clay to try to substantiate on this because at the end of the day, the financial support and all this kind of grant that we are having will be in clay, and we are using all this kind of newly minted clay. 66% actually will be reused on our Klaytn ecosystem. So it's actually get from ecosystem and then give it to the ecosystem to grow together as a community at Klaytn 2.0 and with Klaytn
yeah.
2.0.
Very cool. Listen, a lot to unpack, I think, with what you guys are doing overall. For our audience that do want to dive in deep on where Klaytn is kind of standing, and also the evolution of how they're involved, and could be, really kind of the blockchain of blockchains around the metaverse and gaming, especially as we see this moving forward in 2.0. Lots to see here, Neo, as you guys get rolling out with 2.0. So good luck to you and the Klaytn team on 2.0 and its rollout. Thanks for stopping in on the show today.
Thank you, Paul.
Excellent. All right, you guys are listening in over on the podcast right now. Make sure and give us some likes over there. That's one of the things that we do get in terms of feedback from the podcast audience. It's a way for us to understand what you like, what maybe you don't like, and also this is the place that you need to come to, and that is over here on our YouTube channel, which is where all of the action happens, whether it's deep dive interviews like this one or where we're going in and analyzing tokens, looking at different project movements. All of that is right here on YouTube. Of course, just search Paul Barron Network. You'll find us. Make sure and like and subscribe on a video or two. And of course, if you want to reach me, you can do that out on Twitter at Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechBath.